It's a little tedious for me because I don't get anywhere really. I have a friend looks at my videos, couple friends. But before I start, I want to remind you, if I haven't told you already, to tell you that I program these videos for closed captions. You'll see a CC here on the screen after a few minutes after I upload it. These are computer generated, so sometimes they're a little misleading, but it helps, can be a little relaxing to just watch the words flow. I can't hear my own voice, so at least not very well. And I certainly can't hear it from the computer. So when I play back, I can tell if I enunciated clearly. If it was too many no's, it helps me. But Solving the Enigma is a book about code breaking. And I want to go through some of my images to explain to you why I think there's an Enigma code and what's going on now that traces back to the Kennedy assassination. Things that aren't discussed by the research community for reasons that are not that easy to ascertain from them because they act as though it's obvious why not. Here's an Oswald identification card. You'll notice that it's dated December 7th, which is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. Here is another Oswald identification card, which has the initials AH. And you also notice in the last name the ID is darker than the other four letters, which leave HELL. So there seems to be a code in the conspiracy, and I would argue that things like this aren't just chance. That Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is part of the encryption system that these people settled on. Now, if you look at John Voight's starring role in the Odessa file as it begins, the story of Kennedy having just been shot is coming over the radio. And the name Oswald appears on the screen. Very gradually, the name Oswald fades, dissolves into the name Ronald. Since I believe that something is going on with these men, it doesn't surprise me that Voight then is in his bed with his girlfriend, who's appalled, saying, you know what you could get for the photograph of the assassination. So there was a man named Charles Bronson in Dealey Plaza who made a film, and a namesake in Hollywood, Charlie Bronson, who starred in a film called The Mechanic. And you see some peculiarities and some images and some films that came from Japan. Semi-comical, almost like a reverse idea of The Great Dictator of Charlie Chaplin. So, what else is in evidence in these images, and where do they come from? Is there a hidden history behind it? For example, one of the films being made by Japanese cinema people who were friends of Lee Marvin, as they were making The Killers, and The Killers was being made as they set Kennedy up. It has some of the same floor plan. And Faye Dunaway, who was rumored to have been having an affair with JFK, was called while, her boyfriend was being bullied by Reagan on the phone to announce that Kennedy had been killed. And this Japanese film has this rerouting to get them onto the street is the whole trick in this film. Of course, people who know about Dealey Plaza realize that getting them into Dealey Plaza was the whole essence of accomplishing the nightmare that they accomplished. So, when I go through my image galleries, I try to figure out what they could be saying about what they did and who they could be trying to communicate to concerning their motives and their power in the atrocity that they committed. And I'm informed a good deal by the fact that I was assigned a strange sort of special status in a script that came my way after I was tortured and deafened. And it's challenging for the rational side of the mind to look at something like from the script, like I'm about to ready to send you ESP signals, and to see something from Japanese publications that has a woman pointing at her ear, symbolic of deafness, in the manner of a gun, symbolic of suicide. And you ask yourself, well, how could this person possibly think that something like that is directed at him? Well, I was a little boy buoyed from the San Jacinto, which is the ship that Bush was on in the Navy. And the bomb was called the Little Boy, so that's one motivating factor. They have this thing called VNR planning, which is like virginity or rape or victory and revenge, and the script is all about that. And they've also used, as I discussed in one of my other videos, the symbol, the Shinto shrine for a little girl who was in Dealey Plaza, Rosemary Willis. So when I question whether or not I was used for this script, one of the things I'm explaining is that I wouldn't have believed it either, but when I see some of these things, it's clear that there's a message on them. It says 45 champ 63. Well, 45 is the year they were defeated, and 63 seems to be the idea of when they began to get revenge. And so who's helping them in this miasma? You know, there's a needle at the end of Superfly. It's a building, and it's juxtaposed against Ron Priest. The woman who sent me the script, look-alike of her, appears on one of the albums made by an adjunct of King Crimson. And one of the things she wrote was, only 2 people would know. Only 2 people would know, and you would be one of them. So, isolating me in awareness of what they did seems to be part of their bully method. And it's very difficult to break out of that bully method because they've summoned a lobby of independent filmmakers and exploiters saying, no, that's not true. And they got a lot of people to do things to me, horrific things to me, that implicated them in ways that they don't want to admit. And it's also much more widespread than they want to admit. The same image of the girl who wrote the script is in Seattle Center playing a violin. So, where did she come from and what was she doing? You have simple answers to these questions, provided that no one seems to want to accept. There's more to this.